How willing will lenders be to refinance subprime loans at longer amortizations and lower interest? You know, this is the, I have to say, this is the moment. I mean, I'm a person who wrote a book called The Pro-Growth Progressive. I'm a person who tries to encourage progressives to understand that you don't turn back the future, that globalization is here to stay, that if you care about progressive goals, you have to figure out how to do it, looking at the future and what's inevitable. And I have to say, however, that this period of time makes me incredibly nostalgic for, you know, kind of a Jimmy Stewart version of banks. One, just because I do think there are an enormous number of people who probably could survive, not everybody, but a large majority, or at least a large chunk of likely foreclosures may very well be people who could stay in their home if they could have a 30-year fixed rate at a more reasonable level. And I don't think that's the biggest bailout in the world, because you still got to be working, you still got to make your mortgage. But the problem, of course, everybody has is the whole, with all the securitization, it's not clear who owns the loans and how you create that incentive. And then, second reason it makes me nostalgic is that if you think of your more traditional bank we grew up with, where they lend to maybe the same neighborhood, then you have an incentive to work out, not just to help those people prevent those foreclosures, but we all know study after study shows that foreclosures, particularly concentrated foreclosures in a neighborhood, have a terrible effect on the home prices of everybody else. So you have kind of a world where if everybody could act rationally, you would try to restructure mortgages and you would try to keep as many people in their homes. But with things so spread out, it's very difficult. Now, you know, both Governor Schwarzenegger and Hillary Clinton, you know, have tried to suggest, could you do a freeze for a few years? And of course, a lot of people complain that's too much interventions on you know, contracts, or will that have a problem with rates at a later point? It's, you know, it's very difficult, and those are all legitimate issues to bring up. But the problem is right now, we're about to roll into this period of an exceptional high number of resets without really much of a strategy. So, I mean, at times it feels like we're watching a slow motion car crash. So I think that, you know, I guess I would say this, I don't want to speak for Governor Schwarzenegger or maybe Hillary Clinton, but I think the idea of kind of trying to do something that seems so extraordinary as freeze rates, it's not that you're freezing rates for 5 years, but that by doing that as a default, you create an incentive for people to try to get together and see what homes they can save. But right now, I think that it is, you know, I think caution is the word for credit everywhere, and refinancing you know, and it looks like far too little. I think Moody's said in November only 1% of adjustable rate mortgages had been restructured, despite almost everybody's desire. So we really have a structural problem in creating a situation that would be good for everybody, but where we seem to have a hard time figuring out how to align that.